Welcome to our meeting for the third video under people care on the topic of management. In this presentation, we are going to use approximately 30 minutes together to share some ideas and ask questions if you have any. Today, our main topic is going to be HR policies, which is an important ingredient for achieving QIS standards under people care module. In this presentation, our objectives are going to be that we need to appreciate these policies and how effective they are in management process in our organizations. But also, we also have to identify different types of policies in case we don't have. We are also going to understand how policies can be formulated but also implemented. And lastly, but not least, we are going to identify gaps in our policies as you go through the listening to see if there are gaps that you may need to bridge. I want us to understand that our policies are very, very important, and therefore they should aim at being effective, fair, and transparent in our organizations. Okay? So before we go further, we need to understand what is a policy. A policy is a document that lists expectations of workers and employers. Can you imagine a situation where people are in a community and they don't have anything to guide them? I am sure there would be a mess. And so policies in organizations are there to help us in moderating, controlling, and reducing conflicts in the way we work because we come from different backgrounds. What are some of the examples of policies? Some of you have all these already that are mentioned. We have human resource policy, child protection, finance, code of conduct, safeguarding, anti-bullying, risk, sexual harassment, anti-corruption, whistleblowing, and many other. You can mention as many as you can. How do we implement these policies? Number one, you need to identify what are the risks. Are there problems that you identify and analyze? And then basing on those, then you develop the policy. And when the policy is developed, make sure every stakeholder is involved in this. Everybody that is going to be affected by this policy needs to be involved in the process of formulating this policy. And when this policy is done, make sure all stakeholders understand it and it's enacted by signing by the board, but also all the members of staff have to commit and sign. The implementation process is continuous while management is monitoring, and in the monitoring process then review happens and you identify if there are needs for it to be reviewed. Okay? Why do we need policies? I mean, why do we think policies are important? We must first find out what makes them good before we even think about how important they are. Number one, as I said, it's important for organizations to make sure that all stakeholders are involved. But also these policies should be in line with the national and international laws of the land. They should be transparent, they are understood, they are consistent, they are applicable to the organization, they make sense when people read, they understand, but also they accommodate change in the way they work. What sources of information do you think you need to have these policies formulated and they become good and they are enforceable? They can be gotten through your strategic plan, which is composed of the vision, mission, goals, objectives, values, and beliefs. But also we have national and international laws which are related to labor. Those can also be sources of information. Donor agreements, contracts, beneficiaries, founders, and other organizations through benchmarking and outsourcing. When you have all that information, you are able. So, why do we need these policies? These policies are very, very important in organizations because they provide the roadmap for day-to-day operations. They reduce on conflicts, they provide pathways to conflict resolution, they provide information to new members, and they are actually used for induction process for new staff. They also manage employment process through recruitment, but also they are helping in guiding on how to manage performance and how to become effective. But also they demonstrate a corporate identity for an organization where the organization is known for specific things. Okay? So, make sure when you are developing these policies, you have all those things in mind so that the policy does not just come into place and it's on the shelf and gathering dust, but it's there to be used and help in the management process. And so with those few highlights, these are the questions that we need to think about as organizations. For the policies that you have in your organization, how have they helped you in the day-to-day work in your organization? But also, who was involved in the process of formulating them? And during this process, how have you identified some gaps in the policies that you have? And how do you think we can help? But lastly, what priority areas would you like to improve on? Thank you very much. Please join us next Tuesday so that we can get to understand more about this topic of policies so that you can be guided on how your policies in your organization can be improved. Thank you for listening.